AD top laner. Like, it's going to be the Lucian in this case. It was left open this time. The Tristana was also still an option here, but once again, Keen is just going to go, no, I'm going to have a ranged matchup. I'm going to play AD here in the top lane, and I'm going to have Prio. And it's a very similar idea to what we saw in the last game. Not going to be as amazing at blowing up turrets, but it's going to be really good at controlling those early team fights around the Rift Herald in particular, especially on the top side of the map there when those group ups do happen.
Yeah, and look, also still kills turrets very, very well.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about this is that normally you look at like a top jungle 2v2 and you're like, oh no, this doesn't look so good. You know, Lee Sin and Lucian, you just build some steel caps and you're fine. Dread's not going to be top lane. He's never top lane.
No.
So you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry, is Keen on a carry? And the answer is yes.
He's on a carry. He has a lot of agency in the top lane against Kana in this matchup. And we don't know how Owner is going to play this Trundle. Like, that's going to be a huge boon for the top side of the map if he actually plays it well, if he does try to trap the Lucian. But Lucian also has an escape, right? He can actually get past these pillars if he has enough presence of mind and enough vision. It's going to be very difficult for Owner to actually get a lot of control. I'm really leaning towards Afrika's draft here because it has burst potential, it has early prio, you know, you have this Aphelios Thresh, and it's weird to say the weirdest part of this draft for me, the part I'm less sure about, is Dread on the Lee Sin. But he's been great historically this season on it, so he's going to have to be the one that kind of glues this draft together.
I think the biggest one for me is Fly playing
LeBlanc against
into Faker.
Yeah.
That's still, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and the stones you must need in order to lock that one in as Fly. Up against Faker's very famous Rise as well. But this is going to be about Afrika being able to manage, having some decent lanes that should be able to get some priority, versus T1 that do have some control in a few of these team fights and things as the game goes on. I think their 2v2 top side is very, very strong. The pillar goes down, and then Lucian has a pretty horrible time.
Yeah, he has to know, he has to have vision of when the Trundle comes up if he's going to be able to get away for free. Or get away freely, I should say, because it's never going to be free. But
Fly's monitor has a little bit of an issue here, which is why we've entered sepia mode for a moment.
Yep.
It's a game 6 thing. We need to make sure that we get that pause before we get in there.
If we don't have a pause, then how can we break midnight tonight?
That's exactly right. How are we supposed to do that? I want to skip the rush so that I can potentially get a cab. You know.
Yeah, post
very
midnight.
important. I'm going to be waiting around anyway, so we may as well get this pause happening.
Post midnight's the second wave of tough times to get a taxi. So
yeah.
Just a lot of discussion going on here about the monitor. It could be a refresh rate kind of issue sort of thing.
Yeah, it might be like an input lag something or something like that. For Fly, wants to make sure everything is totally okay.
Yeah, because he's going up against Faker's Rise on this LeBlanc, as you mentioned, multiple times. It's a really stressful one for Fly because, you know, you played the Orianna in Game 1, and it was up to him to really come through, and he did not, right? Not that he played very poorly, but he wasn't able to have those clutch moments. Afrika, in general, were too passive. Game 2, he did come up big when he ended up playing the Zoe, right, and had an extremely gold-efficient game.
He was fantastic, yeah. And I think we've fixed the issue as well, but yes, continue.
And in Game 3, now, you know, he's got an opportunity to be this carry LeBlanc, right, where he has extreme burst damage, he can blow up targets, he can be the threat, like, very similar to Zoe in that he can leap in, do tons of damage, get out. He can poke, but he can also just straight up assassinate someone, which is so critical. If you can kill the Jinx in this game, you know, that's it. Like, the team fight ends a lot of the time if you can actually pull that off later on. And even if you can't kill her, Kumusi always has to be looking over his shoulder when he doesn't know where Fly is.
And it's another one of these sort of pseudo-pick compositions from Afrika. They can play basically the same way that they did in game number 1. In game number 2, sorry, here again in game number 3. So the mindset does not really need to be swung around all that much. T1 in a similar position. They have more consistent long-range damage in the Jinx as opposed to the Varus. They're not going to be, you know, waiting for poke and things like that. But T1 are in a similar spot where they have to rely on being able to make things happen. Otherwise, they just straight up get outranged.
Exactly. There's going to be a really serious issue for them if they can't be proactive in the earlier parts. Now, they are going to end up getting, you know, with this Rise, with this Jinx, if the game is slow-paced, a lot of freedom to farm up later on in the game. But Afrika, you know, I mean, this Lucian is going to be decent in the late game, but the Aphelios and the LeBlanc are also really strong. So it's not just an argument of Jinx Rise win late game, because that's often, if you ever have these two champions together, what you think. But Afrika definitely have some late game power themselves.
Yep.
As I really want to see how Keen performs here now, because it's going to be, he should be absolutely crushing this lane, and it's going to be really annoying for Kana. Not as bad as the Jace, right, for the Gwen, but still very annoying because of the range.
Indeed. This is a 2-0 champion for Kana, so that's definitely good news for him. As Guma getting a bit of damage there onto Leo, but Severum should be able to help this Aphelios get his health back again. Leo 3-1 on this pick. Actually had his first loss, I believe, in game number 1. A little bit unfortunately there for Afrika. Let's see whether he is going to be able to get his next one here in our last game. And of course, the first red side win for the patch. Gumushi and Carrier pushing very effectively here into the Aphelios Thresh at the early stages of the game, as Ona's coming up very early.
This is what I was talking about. If you don't have vision, it's like too late. You already used your dash. Has to flash the pillar. That's a massive win. And this is what you can do against this, when you're in this losing lane, is commit this very early gank for the Trundle here and really shut down a lot of Keen's power, because next time he shows up and you don't have the flash, you die. So you really, you could push the issue now in this limited amount of time, but as 6 looms, you have to be a lot more careful. Dread going to try to punish this.
He actually looks to move in. Q is going to connect and the Wolves reset now. As we can see, the mid lane, Faker and Fly just trading back and forth, but Fly holding onto his mana a little bit more effectively, as we can see. Has the Corrupting Potion, so has more access to extra mana.
Yep, whereas we did see the Crystal start here for Faker. Nice hook.
Yeah, hook going to connect onto Carrier there, and Carrier's going to try his very best to turn this one around. Of course, Braum pretty strong in the early levels. And you can see Afrika are going to respect it, not going to overcommit or anything like that.
A lot of pain going down here. Look at the mid prio. They're actually going to try to collapse on the Kana and get an early kill. This is what you do when you have sometimes a weak link player. You put all your resources in trying to kill this player who doesn't have prio. And that's Kana in this case. He has to get the hell out of here.
Yep, Dread immediately moving on in there. Not going to spend any time waiting.
And yeah, he's going to live here, but he's going to lose a lot of CS. Okay, he stays.
Yeah, they run out of minion wave though, so not going to be too much of an option. However, it does give Keen the creep advantage, right? He is able to now get himself a notable advantage when it comes to levels. And look at the CS.
It's insane. Like, so much was lost actually when Kana had to retreat there. And he still ends up taking a bit of damage as he comes back. Yeah, and it's not that bad for Dread because he just comes right back and grabs his Raptors.
Yeah, he's
Fly had prio.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see Ona just pitch a 10 in the top lane potentially as, okay, well, if Keen had Flash, Kana would be dead, but thankfully Ona did come towards the top side and stopped that one from being a reality.
Keen, is he going to try to stop this? No, it will be Dread who does that. He sees it immediately. He's like, oh, no.
Yeah, we're going to have to use some Mist pretty effectively, but it's not actually going to do anything. That's First Blood so easily.
And look at where
Dread.
Owner is. He's just a few seconds behind, right? He was coming up. He knows this threat is possible, and now he's just going to be on wave hold duty.
Yeah.
I guess not. There's still teleport.
Keen is 100% flexing in games 2 and 3, man.
Yeah, no, it's like just give me a champion where I win the game and I will beat Kana. I am the best top laner in the LCK right now, so and Kana is T1's weakest link even when he is looking good. So just give me the opportunity to carry and control this lane and I will. And unfortunately for Owner, the babysitting just hasn't been good enough. Yeah, he got the flash away early. And like you said, that was why Keen couldn't kill Kana just moments before, because if he had flash, he actually does kill it. But you get a little bit overconfident, right, in these moments. You get a little bit overextended. Like, this is a huge minion wave. Like, this is a mistake from Kana to think that just because Keen doesn't have flash, you can actually play this out, especially when you're a level down because you lost all that minion wave. Yeah. Then he just, unfortunately, gets run down here. He does get Dread's flash in return, but you're very happy with getting that first blood as the Lee Sin in this case.
Oh, you'll 100% take it as Owner. I don't believe has been spotted by this ward just yet. Now will be, as there's the Realm Warp. Teleport to immediately come in. That's a very early pillar to come through as Fly teleports in. Flashes forward, looks for Faker. Not going to be able to do anything there. Goes back to both of his distortions just to make sure.
Yep. Just looking as cool as possible while he does it.
Got to dance around a little bit there, but connecting the chain inside a minion wave, quite difficult as Lahen's going to find a hook. Flay is going to miss though. Sidesteps the Winter's Bite quite nicely.
Baker's going to go ahead and grab his upgraded boots here, but otherwise this has been a very nice game for Keen and Afrika's early game. Once again, they have Prio in the lane, and he's up 30 CS, by the way. And look at where the wave is. It's a long walk back to the lane for Kana.
Oh, man.
That wave is not where he wants it to be.
Nope, and I believe Kane is just freezing it.
Yep,
right.
exactly. That's exactly what he's doing, so he's just going to continue to have this massive advantage. Where the Gwen is like, I can't even get my Leeching Leer, it can't be relevant, I can't do anything in this mid-game. And Afrika are going to be very happy to use that power to look for the first Rift Herald.
This is, we've had top gaps before, but this is a pretty insane version of it, especially given this lane state. Oh god, it's just impossible. It's impossible.
Can't play at the game, and level 6 is up for Keen, so he will absolutely kill Kana if Kana tries to do anything.
Yep. Oh no, and now the Afrika bottom lane know that T1 has to put a lot of resources into trying to break this freeze on the top side, so they're not as worried about what's going on down here.
Yeah, Faker, I really want to make something happen, but it's just not realistic to expect that I can do anything down there. He is obviously winning the pushing power here against Fly at the moment, has pretty significant CS lead, but it's not the end of the world. And Dread once again is nearby here.
Yep, Ona's going to be taking his Gromp, just looking to come up here and help out.
Has, like, the CS gap is widening even. It's just insane. Like, he's like, okay, I doubled his CS. Let's see if I can triple it now.
He's going to eat some honey fruit and go back to the lane. Needs to make sure that he gets the sustenance as best as possible. And they have vision in that river. The Trundle is going to turn up. Keen knows
they see it.
To be careful, but he now has that flash. Back available. You can see the level lead starting to look pretty crazy.
This is really hard for T1 to win if there's a group up, but they catch Fly. That's more than half of his health bar gone here. So maybe this is actually doable now because Owner has done so much damage to the Herald already.
Faker gonna flash before Dread's able to get that kick through as in goes Fly once more, but now doesn't have the distortion, finds the mimicked version. As now Fly, with that fake version of himself, is able to get himself out of the way. Leo's here and in position as Shelly is going to reset. Kana, who's moved on over. It's going to be okay. Keen's at full health, though, and he is a giant. See what they can actually do. The culling is available. Severum, the Crescendum and the Calibrum are up here for Leo, so we can do a lot of long-range damage. Kana now trying to get Snippy, and they landed onto the hands. The Super Mega Death Hook comes through, and the ulti from Leo is not going to land. T1, they group up and get the job done. Gumayusi with the double. In the end,
Gumayusi coming up as a hero here, and Keria blocks the majority of that culling damage, so they're able to kind of weather the storm there and then turn the fight on its head. Fly, once again returning to the fight, getting a little bit too excited up in the front line, is just simply blown up. Gumayusi getting so much value here and so much early gold, and for the first time, Kana is able to breathe and play the game in the top lane here, and this is a massive swing for T1. It was starting to look like this was a game that was just completely off the rails because Kana was not going to be able to be a champion. Now he gets a little bit of room to breathe. They're going to get the Rift Herald, and just watch how low Fly gets. Like, this is the first problem for them. He backs off. He does eventually come back in. They know Faker's gone, so that's like, okay, it's a 5v4 fight. But even in the 5v4, it's not enough because the culling doesn't do too much, and this is where the exhaust hits the wrong Fly. And he's like, oh, I got my life here. I'm going to go back in. But it's a disaster. Like, this is completely blocked by Keria. Teleport comes through from Faker. No longer a 5v4. Yeah. And then look at the damage from Jinx, the Super Mega Death Rocket, like you said. Perfect!
And the Moonlight Vigil does absolutely nothing. If that lands, maybe Afrika are able to get enough damage back, and then Keen and Leo can really finish off the fight. But unfortunately, the T1 skill shots landed, and Afrika's just straight up didn't. So really, really well played by T1, and that may have helped save the top side. I mean, Keen is still going to be ridiculous, especially in this particular matchup.
Yeah, he didn't die, and he still has double the CS of Kana.
Yeah.
But hey, Kana got his Seeker's Arm Guard. That's going to help him a little bit in terms of surviving. He got a kill there, so that gave him a lot of extra gold.
This is actually going to be a very similar build to what Showmaker put together on his Lucian as well. Last time we saw it, the Divine Sundra and the Manamune build that was very effective in that game. Of course, Showmaker playing two different builds in the same series, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that. Whenever you get to see Showmaker on Lucian, it's always a treat.
It is indeed.
Well, you know, right now you're seeing both junglers hover around the top side of the map because not only does Keen want to get further advantages, but T1 are aware of this and want to make sure that they can shut that down. Faker, now the target actually, though, of Dread in the mid lane. He does not have vision of this. Faker does not.
Yep, no flash available either as the chain misses there from Fly.
That's the end of that, should be. Look at this wraparound. Dread's got to be careful.
Yep, Owner is coming on in here. I don't know whether they actually spotted each other. No, there are pings down, so they know that the Trundle is there. Dread lying in wait. And Fly should be able to grab that minion, and he does. So both cannons secured by the mid laners. That is definitely the most important. The posturing is also cool, but I think making sure that you get siege minions, that is the thing, as Dread is going to spot this. They
want
see
the Rift
the dive
drop
coming.
Yeah, they want the Rift Herald drop. They want to kill Keen. So many resources coming up here for Afrika. Look at the rotation from Lehens. He knows.
And you can see Afrika are like, they understand that they need to be as secretive as possible, as Carrier doesn't put up the door. And now Dread finds his way in, finds the Q. He wanted the kick, flashes for it. As you can see, Keen gets exhausted. Dread safeguards to get on top of the Lucian. And now the rest of Afrika, they dive in on top of Owner. They're able to grab that kill. Dread very close to falling down, and they save Afrika's top side outer turret and Keen's laning phase.
Afrika just so proactive in terms of knowing that this is the one place where you can get value at this Rift Herald right now. It's the one timing where they have members on the top side of the map. They knew it. They saw them in mid. Like, they know Owners nearby. They send everybody up. And even with a beautiful exhaust from Carrier, I really thought that was going to be a kill there. It's not enough. And Afrika send every single member up to deal with this. They get the kill. And it's just so amazingly done. They shut down all that pressure. The Rift Herald does not get dropped. There's not a single plate for Kana in this game. No money going over to the Gwen. I mean, it's very rare we see Gwens at 13 minutes who don't at least have a Leeching Leer, who don't at least have the ability to skirmish and team fight. But he's just been completely deleted from this game by Keen.
Just no way to really play this one out, as the Rift Herald is going to be put down on the bottom side. I believe that was actually starting to run out, as now it's got a bit of a walk before it gets to the turret, but they will be able to get it in there. As Dread trying to get on top of it, but the charge will come through. And that is plate gold going only to Owner. So they wanted to give that to Gumayusi, but they're unable to. Lehens is going to give Fly a Lantern Ride.
Yeah, and if you go back to all the trouble it took to get that Rift Herald in the first place, it was something that you really needed as T1 to really solidify your gold lead. But it does, like you say, only go over to Owner, which is really awkward because he's just on this Trundle that is not having the greatest game ever. You know, he's not going to be extremely impactful. Like, this champion getting gold is, you know, next to Braum, probably the last thing you want. You'd rather anybody else have it, but your top lane is non-existent. You can't put it there. You tried so hard to put it there, but you couldn't. And, you know, this is a really big nullification of one of the hugest early game objectives in the game of League of Legends right now.
Well played. It's 14.5 minutes, and Drake hasn't even gone down yet.
There just hasn't been any breathing room for either of these junglers because the whole game feels like it's been a 2v2 in the top side of the map.
I wonder whether this game is going to be won or lost by how this top side is going to go, as Dread just going to pop the blast cone. Kana moves on in there just to make sure he's not getting dove one more time.
Well, that's the thing, Atlas, because if you just always spend your time with your jungler on the top side of the map as T1 and Kana still is 60 CS behind and you still can't make anything happen, then it will be lost on the side of T1, right, with all these resources coming, because, you know, we thought maybe Wonder would end up moving down to the bottom side map, trying to find something else in this game if this did go poorly, but he's just unfortunately been so relegated to the top side. Dread's finding success there. He's not.
Well, Dread spots Owner in the river over here. They do have that Rift Scuttle vision. We've got Rift Herald, Shirley, turning up in 35 seconds. Still this Drake that I'm very curious about. See whether anyone's ever going to actually take it. Looks like Afrika might be looking towards it now, but
Afrika haven't
not
had,
with their jungler.
Yeah, Afrika haven't had any prio in mid or bottom realistically long enough to feel like they could rotate over, and the same has unfortunately been true for T1. They haven't had enough prio on top to feel like they can have a jungler there to smite for it, and you just don't want to risk that early game fight and a lot of gold going over to Afrika, I think, as T1, even when you have that mid and bottom control. It's just been neither team willing to have, I mean, they just don't have the numbers advantage they think guaranteed enough to push for it. But this does mean that, very much like last game, we have a high chance of having an extremely long game here.
Yeah,
because it's so low kill. Yeah.
And both of these teams not really looking to make the proactive play, as we can see, as the hook is going to go wide. Kana trying to get out of there as Keen. He's managed to make it. They're going to be able to lock down this outer turret. That's going to be first turret blood going over to Afrika.
Yeah, Afrika ended up getting the first turret blood. At least Kana survives, but he's zoned out. Yeah, that's right. You guessed it, from more CS, from more experience. He's going to be able to pick up some of these minions. At least he's trying to. But he's like, okay, I have my one chance to lane swap and then go get some of the money on the bottom side of the map. And Afrika said, no, you're not allowed to play the game. You're not allowed to get money. He's finally got his Leeching Leer, but Divine Sunder is done for Keen.
He's just looking to complete that Mana Immune. Should be coming through relatively quickly. as Faker pushes another wave forward. Fly is up here to try and help out. Manages to eventually get that control ward down. You can see, I believe it's the red buff being taken by Keen right now, which is why Fly has to be here.
Yeah, and also the Rift Herald is going to go over to T1 because there's just no way that Keen and crew can get over here in time to contest it because they did have all those resources on the bottom of the map. So even though it's not amazing to have the second Rift Herald, and we saw how poorly the last one went for T1, that's the best objective you can get when you do see Kana's being collapsed on the bottom side. So a trade here of sorts.
Yeah.
Not a great one, but it's what you can get as T1.
Yeah, so they trade Rift Herald for Drake and the outer turret bottom lane. So it's not exactly trading up. However, it's trading and being able to get something is good.
And Faker, yeah. And Faker is left to get a lot of CS. Actually, is going to get delayed here, which is very annoying.
Yeah, spotted on that ward. Is going to eventually vacate the area.
He doesn't know Lehens is here, but I don't think Lehens can make anything happen. In fact, it's Owner and Keria trying to make the play here onto Keen.
Yeah, and they actually have so much vision. Afrika up here towards the top side, so they know what's going on. They are going to give up this outer turret.
Keen has flash, so he's
Keria
totally fine.
Sorry, Keen just sidesteps Keria. Really like that. Takes himself the Lantern as the Realm Warp is going to be, okay, taken by a couple of minions.
That was a really nice
there for a second.
Yeah, really nice reaction from Keen just in case they did take it. He was like, well, you're going to take a lot of damage if you get in here. And you know what? This is a win for Afrika because Fly is getting free CS, and it's just it's a trade otherwise. Also, Leo is getting free CS in the mid lane.
Yeah.
So during this huge group up for T1, they gain nothing, whereas Afrika is actually evening out that gold gap quite significantly for two of their big carries.
I think the fact that Kana is on the bottom side of the map actually able to farm is also really important, though. So T1 probably going to be okay with the situation as Dread dives in, dives out. And everything's going to be all right. But like you say, I mean, the gold gap it's
dwindling,
just
you know?
completely even.
Yeah, it's very close.
Almost this entire game, even with Keen getting so far ahead, you know, the 60 CS advantage, but that's been made up for elsewhere, you know. Faker's got a 30 CS lead.
Exactly.
A decent lead for Gumayushi as well.
Plus the fact that they did get the Rift Herald, which, you know, actually both of them, which is a little bit of extra gold, you know, just for the Rift Herald itself, and then, you know, Owner
some more plates,
yeah, some plates here, so it's very competitive right now. And I think this game, because it is going to be a longer one, is going to be about the execution of those team fights. Keen is not afraid of anything.
Apparently not, yeah. He's just happy just to walk up to T1. Has Relentless Pursuit, but I don't know whether that makes you completely immortal, my friend. Still
not.
He's going to utilize it as, okay, Ono's going to move in. They're going to try and break this outer turret mid lane, potentially with Shirley.
And, you know, Fly isn't anywhere nearby. I think this is going to be a really nice opportunity. Unfortunately, the timing isn't great for this next Drake because the Drake timing in this game is so weird. But you don't really have an option. You're running out of time on this Herald, so he is going to have to make use of it sooner than later.
Yeah, they should be able to just chuck it down and hopefully at least get a charge. Should do a fair bit of work, though, onto this this mid-outer turret if they can get it in there. Maybe some extra resources going to need to be brought over, and that's exactly what they're going to be able to do. As Kana, the Riftmaker, has been completed, and he has teleport, so he can be there if needed.
And this game is really, really razor thin right now. And T1, I mean, if they get a pick, they easily get opportunities to really take a nice lead.
There is another great Unbreakable from Keria, saying absolutely no to the culling.
Yeah. 1 minute to go on this Drake fight, and it's going to be a very pivotal one because this is where Afrika can really not only get that extra value from the solo Mountain Drake, but is also going to be able to put themselves in a 2-Drake lead, which means they can threaten soul points. This is another Rift Herald drop that's, once again, desperate.
Yeah, and a little bit inopportune.
Too
like
early.
Saying. It's certainly... Okay, Leo going to get blocked there by Dread. Really nicely played just to make sure that the Aphelios is going to be fine. Hook is going to connect onto the Rift Herald as it's taking a lot of damage. Does eventually get the charge. As Kana's rotating around, the turret keeps itself alive for a little bit longer as Keria is going to go in. They take a bit of damage from Keen. It's not going to be too much. Some lower health bars, 25 seconds on this Drake.
Really close call there. Dread looking for everything. I think he even committed the smite there to try to kill the Rift Herald, but not enough. And they will back off here. They cannot really look to fight this with the low health bars. So yes, you do get the turret, but the timing is so unfortunate for this Rift Herald because now T1 have no real opportunity to take a fight here, as Afrika are just going to push this in and rotate over as it spawns, you would imagine. They're actually looking for more This is extremely greedy from Afrika.
The unseen Lucian is the deadliest, as Faker's going to rotate up. Dread's going to find him. There's the kick flash. Actually avoids the piercing light damage, so slightly unfortunate there as Carrier gets in there, and they immediately get rid of Dread. Faker's going to be okay for a little while, but the Moonlight Vigil will be able to lock him down. This kind of tries to find some needlework, but doesn't get it here. Onto Afrika. We'll be able to charge up a few of them, but not going to land.
We were talking about a lack of proactivity from Afrika in Game 1, but this is not what we had in mind, to be this aggressive. You had a free opportunity, you had Drake Prio, but you got greedy, you wanted even more. And yes, it is a trade, but the trade doesn't favor you because you don't get the Drake anymore. Now T1 have that objective tied up.
Yeah,
1-to-1 here.
Cloud Soul as well.
Yeah,
maybe I'm going to owe some people some apologies for that one.
Which is actually really good for both teams. As we watch this one more time, Faker is pretty aware, but unfortunately he's just not able to save himself. The kick is kind of awkward, and Faker buys a ton of time with that stopwatch, so they do end up trading this onto Dread. Really great block once again from Carrier, who's had a fantastic game, and it's Leo who's the one who's able to finish this off with the Moonlight Vigil. But you lose the Drake, you know? And if you had just rotated over and not try to snowball the game super hard as Afrika, I think you have a better chance. Now this is something that there is absolutely no vision of whatsoever for T1. They have no idea this is happening.
Yep, they're going to get some vision over there, and there is the blue trinket. And so T1 not going to let this one just slip away. Flies in the bottom lane with teleport in hand, going for that split like we've been talking about. Don't really want to get these team fights happening. Want to utilize that range advantage as Dread. Coming on up here as there's a blast cone, and okay, Keen and Dread are going to be absolutely fine. Relentless Pursuit is going to get Keen to safety, and T1 unable to get on top of them.
Yeah, just one ult traded for 2 here for Afrika. No flashes except Keen's, you know, ended up going down there, so not the biggest punish ever for T1 by any means. And once again, Afrika going to clear out this vision. And Fly is just trying to get as much as he can done. And you consider that he's only 10 CS behind a Rise, and it's Faker's Rise. He is getting a lot of side laning time, more than LeBlanc normally does in this game, because Owner
more than a Fly normally does,
yeah,
most definitely.
And Owner has, you know, just been so babysitting. I mean, he's been basically a babysitter for Kana and the rest of T1. So much of this game has just been no way to collapse in and punish Fly.
Decent little burst of damage there from Fly. Finds Faker off to the side. Faker has a broken stopwatch, does want to complete that Zhonya's as soon as possible, but does at least have his Seraphs.
That's one of the huge moments in that trade is, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a fair trade of Mountain Drake for a Faker stopwatch, but it is going to be something that affects him in these next few moments, right, where he is caught, if he's caught, potentially he is just straight up dead. This is a really tense game, and it's slow-paced once again because neither of these teams have huge opportunities to punish or dive or be aggressive. That timing has passed. Like, Kana still ending up being 50 CS behind, but you can no longer just straight up bully him.
Are we doing it again? Because Leo's got the best weapons possible for a Baron right now.
I think they just want to set up a trap instead. Fly has teleport. Faker does as well.
The hook just barely missing his Keen. Looking a little bit tasty right now. Takes the lantern, gets to safety. Danger.
Faker just waiting to teleport in if he needs to, and he is going to decide to push instead because he knows that they're not going to commit, and he can actually grab a turret on the bottom side of the map while this is kind of slowly happening here for Afrika, where they're kind of getting vision control and backing off. Faker's like, sick, free push.
Yep.
And I think he just barely will not get that turret. We're not getting a shot of it. There it is. Show me the health bar. It's pretty low, but I don't know exactly how low.
Yeah, Fly actually was able to get there and pop it, so it's not quite low enough. As okay, we face checking Fly. He is able to get out. Buffers the distortion, finds himself the chain here onto Faker.
Pretty good trade for Fly.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Especially when he did face check. The punishment could have been certainly a much higher.
As like
how to walk away with his life.
Right now for Afrika, it seems like one of their biggest, what they want to do right now, one of the biggest goals is to force a fight around Baron that T1 has to take, where they're kind of face checking in because they keep hovering around there. They have top prio with this Lucian. They're putting down these control wards. They're clearing vision. It just happens to be every time they clear this mid wave, they fake a Baron, or at least they have a setup. If you don't come over T1, we're going to do the Baron. If you come in 1 by 1, we can take that fight, and that is exactly the setup they want, because Fly has that teleport. The same could be said of Faker, of course, who is now actually coming up to try to help deal with this Lucian pressure.
It's the flatline gold graph that we're going to see at the end of this game.
It's crazy.
It's going to look like the resuscitation of someone, I think, because there will be a fight eventually, and then someone's going to get more gold. It's sort of like a resurrection. We're going to need that resurrection moment to come relatively soon, though, because the intensity of this game is just absurd.
Yeah, I feel like we're, you know, if we're a dubstep song right now, it's about time for the drop to hit.
Yeah, it's certainly about time for the drop.
We're getting very close to that
It's like
moment.
you're a dubstep fan, but you've accidentally, like, clicked on like lo-fi jazz hip-hop or something like that, and you're sitting there waiting for the drop the entire time, and it's just a live one that keeps looping, and you're like, it's sure to come now, it's been 4 days.
27 minutes later, we're still waiting.
Yeah, as Keen just really likes putting the culling into an unbreakable.
I mean, it still does a lot of damage to Carrier, to be honest, even though, you know, he blocks the majority of that. He ends up going down to half health as this happens, so
yep,
that's going to really hurt how much he can frontline here. Drake's up, so Afrika looking to set up for this. They have a really nice arc.
Kane has to be careful. Gets himself out of the way.
The arc that's set up here for Afrika is really nice because they can not only, you know, threaten to collapse in, but they can also just rotate over to Baron if T1 do commit, and that's exactly where they're headed right now. Look at this
After
one
game
ward.
number 2, Afrika just hate Cloud Drakes. They do not want to take them. They lost the game because of it last time. They're not doing it ever again.
That one ward
is a unit trying to get over here. The Drake is taken by Faker, but he's got Realm Warp, he's got Teleport, he's got a lot of ways that he can get through. As Kane gonna get snipped. He's stuck inside, but he's still able to click the Lantern. Snips come forward. They do manage to take down the Lucian, and then immediately Canna goes golden. But look at this Aphelios damage. He's doing a lot of work. You saw Owner threw down the Subjugate. That was onto Leo, so that's going to get him some health back. But they do manage to make their way out of there as Afrika fly off to the side. It's going to get slowed down, but will be able to keep himself up for the moment.
I mean, just that one kill onto the Lucian gives so much pushing power to T1. They want this inhibitor. They're going to get the turret at least here. They know Fly and Dread are on the flank, but I don't think it's going to be enough to stop them. This should be the inhibitor going down.
Yep, Lance has now put the Lantern on cooldown as well. If they do manage to get the inhibitor, Fly looking for an opportunity to get in. The mist does go down. The distortion takes him back. And now T1 looking for a potential reset.
Yeah, and I think this is an opportunity to maybe look for Baron. It's pinged here because even though Keen is dead, he's respawning, he has teleport. Dread is looking for the start here. So we're going to jump back in time. This is a tense moment to watch a replay, but this is going to be the catch onto Keen as he tries to look forward. He's trapped inside the pillar, takes the Lantern, but the damage numbers are still too high. And I really want to know what's happening in live because it's extremely critical whether Afrika set up for this or not.
I have a feeling they're not doing it because otherwise we may have snapped back or at least had a look.
Let's see where we are. They do not take it. They just look for a little bit more vision control, but they had this tiny window, but it's extremely high risk. If they do fail, then T1 probably just win the game right away.
Yep. As we do have the resuscitation. So now finally it's a 2,000 gold lead for T1. Something's happening. Someone's alive.
Yeah.
We have, we've done it.
And, you know, it has been a very low excitement game in terms of the team fighting. We've seen a pick here or there. We've seen some attempts, but shut down. Like we've seen, you know, a Fly trade with Faker. This time we might see some permanent damage to Faker.
Yeah, he
Maybe
does
not.
have his Zhonyas as he's going for the back, but Afrika, they're not going to go for it.
They're not going to go for it. They don't have enough vision. You can see the vision shown by our observing team right there. The entirety of T1 could have been in that part of the jungle, and they would have been punished super hard for it, so they decide not to. Okay. And they don't have enough vision to even rotate over to Baron either, so Faker just gets out for free without teleport and can rush right back into the mid lane. Kana's finally going to get some gold on turret.
Yeah.
And he's got his items online, right? He's got his Riftmaker, he has his Zhonyas. It took him a really long time to get those relevant items in the game, but he's actually a champion now.
He is. 2 kills. Was able to pick up that last one onto Keen as well, able to get some revenge. Must have been very cathartic. Still behind by a lot, but I mean, at the moment, like, the fact that that CS gap has not changed since 7 minutes into the game,
yeah,
that's the important part, right? It's not sort of the number there. The difference is not really the problem because coming back from that was a very, very difficult task, but now
there's a lot of
Glenn
pings
seems to be okay.
from T1. They know that Dread and Fly are here. Faker's trying to get a ward up here so they can confirm. That's the reason why T1 don't decide to start this Baron. They just don't have enough information. They know that Fly and Dread are missing, and they know where they were most recently, and they do see now and confirm where Fly is. But T1 is starting to get to the point of this game where, I mean, look at the Jinx items. They can actually rush this Baron down if they get an opportunity to get on top of it.
Well, a lot of things just appear in that pit as Dread is going to get the kickback onto Faker. Now we've got a teleport to come through. Let's see whether they can actually get this. He does have the Zhonya's complete as Fly gets out, but Keen, he's not going to be so lucky. He's stuck in there. Super Mega Death Rocket finishes off the kill as Realm Warp is going to come through as well. That's going to bring Gumayusi over.
I was like, some sunk cost fallacy here for Afrika Atlas, I think.
Right.
They were like, well, we waited this long, we might as well just all in on Faker, and his Zhonya's just outlast literally everything, allows T1 to punish. Now they have a man advantage for this Baron.
Well, Hook is going to connect there onto Carrier, but of course Carrier is okay with being hooked. That's a great Rune Prison onto Fly. He's denied the exit, but it's not going to be enough to get them out of the way of the distortion. Fly flashing. Keeps himself safe, and T1, they back away from the Baron.
They know the Fly has teleport, and if they try to slow this down any further or reset after the Baron has, gotten its health back up, then Fly can teleport back in at full health, and then everything can turn around in an instant. But this is the sunk cost fallacy I'm talking about. You're 3 levels down here, so individually, in the time it takes Fly to come over here, which he uses his ultimate as well to get the double distortion on the Faker, it's still not enough. His Zhonya's last long enough, and now you lose Lucian, you almost lose Dread here. He's just barely able to get out of there with Fly giving him that taxi. But this is a huge moment, a huge opportunity that's just forced so hard by Afrika when it didn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, now you're going to lose Soul Point, 5 seconds on the clock, and that's going to be real comfortable. As we have a look down at the items, Gumayusi has all of them. As many items as you would ever want, even a couple of control wards there.
Yeah.
And at 32 minutes, this Jinx is just obscenely huge, ahead of Leo by just a bit.
Fly is up 1 rod, so he's a little bit closer to getting that death cap online. He's actually almost there. And then his next back, he will definitely get it. So that's going to be a pretty big spike for him, as Dread is going to need to W out of here.
Yep, does so pretty comfortably. Does have to get onto a ward, as Leo did not want to move any closer than he needed to be.
So Fly gets that wave, is over here on the top side of the map. Going to try to rejoin with the squad. He's got a really nice flank angle here.
T1 able to fish.
Here we go. Fly seen, though. They know he's here, and I don't think he knows that. He does now.
Yeah, Distortion, of course, able to get himself out of the way, so not going to get punished too much, but T1 still, they're going to make the map very, very dark. Dread wanting to come on in here, but that's going to be the ult invested onto Lehans. Hook is going to bring Carrier back as another culling comes through. Carrier very close to falling to that one. And as Subjugate's even invested.
Yeah, he's essentially dead. He has to back off here. He cannot really rejoin this fight. So he survives, but he won't be around. So this now becomes a 5v4 opportunity for Afrika to rush over and take that Baron. Just not confident enough to do it right now. They're looking to force a fight instead, try to bait a fight here, but T1 think better of it.
I feel like Afrika have set up for these death brushes 400 times and it's never
working, right? It's never going to work. And now you've lost so much time. You are going to go over here and start this Baron, or at least you should.
Yep, they're going to. Immediately Vision goes down for
Carrier's
T1.
back. He's not. It's no longer a 5v4. He's here.
Yep, the box comes in. Okay, so they have Vision. Can they actually get in there, though, is the question. Is that Realm Warp was not exactly where I was expecting it to be, but it might just be the end of Lehans, as it is going to be a trade of supports, but Keen's already dead. Leo has a whole lot of survivability, but just not enough. And T1 roll over the top once again. They'll now start off the Baron, and I think finally this game has officially turned into a T1 big advantage.
It's definitely a huge advantage for T1 now, and Afrika had so many opportunities to make a choice, right? Either commit, hard engage onto somebody after you set up that brush, or rush down the Baron. They made neither choice. They stayed in the brush for a little bit. Whenever the Baron started, walked away, then started the Baron again a second time. Just way too slow on this. And your composition cannot just start Baron before T1. T1 could start a Baron and then turn. Yours, not so much, because you're so reliant on Fly to play this LeBlanc on a flank angle. And you see he's just completely irrelevant in this fight. This is a 5v4, and it should not have been this way. It should have actually been 5v4 start for Afrika, but they wait so long. T1 go for the punish. And T1 have just been way more decisive this game than Afrika have, and they've just been playing as if T1 is 3 times the better team than they are, instead of actually using their win conditions correctly. They're playing like they're trying to party bush, instead of actually winning a straight-up team fight or trying to win a straight-up objective, right? And I don't think you need to play that way.
No, of course not. And I think that Afrika want to play side lanes, right? But they haven't even been able to do that. And
exactly.
They've been feeding, Canna just minion wave after minion wave, and he's barely even behind anymore. In fact, he's the one that has a bounty right now. The Jinx is absolutely gigantic. And Dread is just going to be spotted. He's going to be able to use the ward to get himself out.
Fly does have his death cap now, so he is going to do tons of damage when he does decide to go in here. But unfortunately, this positioning here is so good, and Owner is just guarding Faker so well that it's really hard for Fly to actually close the distance and go in there.
As Canna is actually a little bit too far forward here. That's real dangerous. Okay, Leo with his Calibrum. Very threatening, but Canna is able to get himself out. Not sure what that was.
Yeah, that will definitely end up muting a lot of this Baron power. It's still going to be very strong, and T1 will look for the reset here, so it's just going to end up being his teleport going down for this. So they're going to continue to group 1-4. Faker in the mid lane, the 4 on the side here, and it's time to be decisive, Afrika. Make a choice. You've got to do something.
Canna and Faker, both of them level 18. Keen's only 16. That advantage that he had has really just evaporated after all of the times that he's died.
And this pick, you know, the Trundle pick, it's working out very well at denying Dread from doing a whole lot in this late game. You know, he's just always under threat, and if he gets slowed or caught by a pillar, he just dies or has to use all of his cooldowns, and he's not useful for when T1 continue to push. The positioning from Owner has been really good in these splits here.
No, it's been fantastic.
Look at all the wards that Afrika have to commit.
Okay, that's a hook onto Carrier. He's going to die immediately. Fly tries to get in there. Gumushi down to below half. And Afrika will save their inhibitor turret and this inhibitor.
It's unbelievable that they're able to make this defense happen. Finally, a decisive move happens. Finally, a punish onto Carrier, who this time isn't able to pick up the door and hold it up there in time. He is burst down too quickly.
Can
but
they
T1
deny this soul, though, is the question. I don't think so. Red's going to move on in. They're going to do their very best to try and get down. But, I mean, look at all of this CC.
And there's nothing else on the map for Afrika to take. You can't just go, well, haha, you got that, but I
will take my own red buff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really awkward. You can see Afrika were all rotating towards the mid lane like, we really missed out on an opportunity here. But the Baron, you know, minions, then the waves that they had, the advantage they still have bottom for T1, just makes it so hard for Afrika to rotate over even with a 5v4 advantage like that. This game is still anyone's to take if T1 makes a big mistake, right? Like Afrika hold their inhibitors so they're not under, you know, super minion pressure or anything like that right now. We're going to have another lull state before this Baron spawns.
I feel like T1 are now in the winning position, though, right? They've got the Formula Soul. They have the Soul, and yes, it's Cloud, and we say memes and things like that about Cloud isn't that valuable, but it is still very, very strong.
And they have way more control of the vision over the map. It's just really hard for Fly to make plays right now.
Now Carrier dives on forward. He can throw out his ultimate if he feels like it with triple Cloud Drake. Going to be having that one back pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
Leo's got 4 items. He is big.
Yeah.
But getting in range to actually land these autos against Gumushi is also just huge in this game.
Fly is just really trying to do something in this game. Like you can see he's always trying to find an angle. Maybe he could, you know, distortion in, get out, do a little poke damage, do it again, rinse and repeat, but there's just so much threat of getting CC'd or getting rooted.
Oh, that
Here we go.
Pretty nice onto Owner, but it's not going to be damage that sticks, unfortunately.
Dread was like, I really wanted to ult him and get that pick. Then we could 5v4, group up for the Baron in 90 seconds, you know, get that vision control. But right now, there's just no control for Afrika whatsoever on the map, and they're just sitting back and farming. But T1 are very happy to just have full control. Because their comp also scales and saying, well, I mean, I guess there's not much more scaling for Gumushi to do. He's fully online.
Yeah,
I don't think we're selling his boots this game.
I mean, he could.
I wouldn't get ahead of myself, though, I guess I should say. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Yep. Anathema's is completed for Trundle, and Trundle scales very well.
Yes.
You know, you're able to eliminate anyone that just eventually gets tanky, which Lehens is trying to do for his team.
Yeah, and, you know, for T1, every single time there is a moment where Afrika have an opportunity to maybe punish, they always make the right choice. They back off at the right times. Owner is always at the right place to cut off Dread or to stop Fly from actually harassing or getting any damage done. And T1 have been decisive in those neutral fights, in those moments where there's an opportunity, whereas Afrika have choked a little bit. They've been a little bit slow on the draw.
Yeah.
And I think in 30 seconds when this Baron spawns, that's Afrika's last chance to find a way back in this game. They lose Baron, they might lose before Elder Drake spawns, and then T1 will always have Prio on Elder Drake no matter what because of the state of the game.
I mean, they should have Prio anyway, right? Like, based on the 7,000 gold lead that they have right now. Like, this is T1's game to lose, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe there's just going to be that flip as Dread. Okay, he's going to be able to take the Lantern out. Fly gets towards the side, but he has Distortion to get himself out of the way. Fishing now with these pillars as Canna diving forward, looking for a little bit more. You can see Leo getting dove on. Great kickback onto Canna, but look at the damage. Faker finally able to get in there. Immediately pops to Dread. Now trying to get out of the way, and it's Gumiyushi's turn to get the hard carry happening. This is going to be the ace, and T1 will just be able to march down the mid lane and finish off this game.
What a great end to this game for T1. Soars a little wide, but Fly.
The super mega almost rocket.
Press the attacks on him. Is he going to get out of here?
Yeah.
Looks like the answer is yes. He actually can go back too if he wants to, but the Nexus is going to go down.
Yep.
T1.
Some say that Fly is still running away from T1, but we will never know as T1 do take down the Nexus. They finish off what feels like one of the longest best of threes that we've had this season. Obviously, I think the Nongshim series was probably longer, but T1 definitely do like to spend their time on Summoner's Rift.
T1 were just never going to get caught and never going to get picked when Afrika spent their entire mid to late game trying to stay in a brush, trying to find Faker on the side lane, trying to continue to punish Kana, trying to grab a pick, and we did see some hooks go through, but in the last moment when Afrika decided to go in, it was the mist from Kana. He eats the hook, it's completely negated, and then they collapse in, and it's like everybody in Afrika's in